up until that point, everybody, all the credit repair companies in America would charge you like $99 down, $99 a month, and they would drag this thing out as long as they could, because the longer it took them to fix your credit, the more money they could bill you.
Right.
And there's no money to make if they fix it in a month.
So clearly, the mortician business wasn't for you, Rondi. And I can kind of understand why, because I bet, having known you a little while, I actually bet you're really great at that job, because that's a job that requires a lot of compassion, really good listening, right? Like people having hard ass moments. So I can kind of see how in the skill set, right? Like how you move from, obviously you've had other businesses, but how you've moved from that to credit, because it's the same thing, right? People are having the death of their like, wow, I thought I had this together, and clearly I don't actually know what I'm doing, or travesty has happened to them and they have credit problems because of that. But was there something that had you go, the credit industry is the place for me, or?
It didn't quite happen that way.
Oh, okay.
It was, we got called to a car accident, and it was a man and woman. He had a heart attack driving up a mountain road, ran off the road, killed him, killed his wife, killed the kids in the car, and killed the dog. And that was like my last straw. I'm like, I am done doing this, because we were the cleanup crew.
You would show up at the accident. They wouldn't just bring you bodies.
Mm-mm. No, because there was only one coroner. So that first time when he said, hand me the saw, we were actually going to do an autopsy. And I just had enough. And so I decided I'm done. And from now on, I'm going to be the fireman that shows up. So I sold my house as a teenager. I bought I think it was a 42-foot trailer, which I don't have any regrets in life, but one of my financial regrets was selling that trailer, because I was up there a few months ago in John Day, Oregon. That trailer's still sitting there. And I paid $15,000 for it. And I remember after I closed on it, I went to high school, and one of the kids tried making fun of me because I was a senior in high school. And he's like, "Oh, I heard you bought a trailer and you live in the trailer park." And I'm like, "Yeah, and you still live with your mom. So what's the problem here?" So, and I ended up selling it, but that thing rents for $750 a month. And I did the math. I would have made $300,000 if I would have just kept the trailer.
Welcome to owning trailer parks.
Yeah. But I sold it. But what had happened is I went on the call and I saw, I was like, I'm done with this. I want to be the guy that called before everybody's dead. And so I up and sold my stuff. I moved to Denver, Colorado in 1992 because I heard they were building this big airport called DIA, and they were going to be hiring lots of firefighters. So I moved to Denver and I got accepted to the fire academy. I went to the fire academy and become a fireman for Littleton Fire. And I did that until 2006.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was on the busiest rescue in Denver. I absolutely loved that job. At the same time, there's things I didn't like. I was a first responder at Columbine High School. So my partner and I, Patrick, are the ones that found the 13 kids that survived. And, luckily none of them died. So I transported Mark Taylor. He was one of the kids that had been shot multiple times. And that's kind of the turning point for me. Was like, I don't know if I can do this either, because it was being on the busiest rescue in Denver. It was 12 to sometimes 15 calls a day. So it's 24 hours nonstop of shootings and stabbings and drug overdoses and car accidents. And in my early 20s, it was, I'm an adrenaline junkie. Like, I liked it. Driving the fire truck 100 miles an hour. But after a while, it started to wear on me. And then in 2006, my mom, I still at that point did not have a really good relationship with her, because when I left my home, my mom offered me $20 in food stamps and sent me on my way. And so I felt abandoned by her. And now I don't, because look, my mom was young, and, up until 1977, women, They always talk about not having being able to vote, but until 1977, you couldn't have a credit card, you couldn't have a car loan, you couldn't sign a lease, you couldn't even get a bank account without a man's signature. And so when I learned that in the credit industry, I really started having a lot of grace for my mom, because here she was, before she met Paul, she had 4 boys. And then my other siblings, so I have 3 full brothers, and then the rest are half brothers, half sisters. I don't count any of the step siblings, just because who knows how many there's out there. But my mom called me after the fire department, and because I was on a really busy rescue, the rule was when I go to the fire department, I was married, I had kids, was you don't call me at the fire department. I don't call you, you don't call me, because if you call your spouse every night and then one night you don't, they think something's wrong. So I got off shift. I turned on my cell phone, and this is 2006. It was one of the Matrix ones, the Razors, I think it was called.
Yeah, Razor, yeah.
You push the button and it pops out, $1,000 garbage phone.
At least you can hear on that phone, though. As a sidebar, I can't hear on the iPhone. That was the last phone we had that I could hear on. So, I don't know.
And I had all these phone calls from my mom. So I called her. She was distraught. And she's like, yeah, your brother Zeke, who's my youngest sibling, who also was a fireman. And I really didn't spend much time with him, because after I left home, I got married and I had kids, and, I was doing my own thing. And she said he had an accident. I'm like, okay, well, we're firefighters. That's what we do. And she's like, no, he's had an accident. I'm like, and, I was callous, And she goes, he died. And I'm like, well, what happened? He killed himself.
Oh.
And I'm like, he's 21 years old. And so at that point, the older brother and me took over. The funeral director brother and me took over. And so I managed all of that. Come to find out, he was getting harassed by collection companies over some BS, medical bills, a credit card that he got that he didn't pay, a car payment he was late behind. And they started calling him. He got into a depression. And then they started calling his girlfriend. Him and his girlfriend got in a big fight. She said, Zeke, you're a loser. You've always been a loser. Your family are losers, and you'll never accomplish anything. So he went out to the car, got a gun, and shot himself. Over a few $100.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was like, I can't be the hero, the firefighter of the year, when my family members are hurting so bad. My family members are killing themselves over collections and credit. And so at that point, I started self-educating myself. I got a Robert Kiyosaki book, started learning about money and taxes and real estate. And then 2007, I bought an entire law set of books on credit law from the National Consumer Law Center. So it was like $4,000.
Wow.
And for I started the credit repair business, and I just fixed people's credit for free because I didn't know what I was doing. And I just told people, yeah, I'll fix it for free. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out. And I started, I reverse engineered it. What I did is I bought all these law books, and they were just case study after case study after case study of banks and collection companies and credit bureaus losing. And I started seeing similarities in the cases. So then I started writing and creating letters based on those case studies where the collection company lost. And then the thing just went off. It went crazy. I started making tens of millions of dollars, because up until that point, all the credit repair companies in America would charge you like $99 down, $99 a month. And they would drag this thing out as long as they could, because the longer it took them to fix your credit, the more money they could bill you.
Right.
And there's no money to make if they fix it in a month. So I had a real estate license at the time as well. So I'm like, I'm going to make it like a real estate agent. You only pay me if I fix it. Well, so I would fix people's credit. They'd come into my office. I'd look at their credit report. I'd say, okay, it's going to be $2,500, $3,000, $1,200, whatever it is, because I charge $100 per account per bureau. Well, what do you guys think happens when your clients, all of them don't pay their bills on time, and then you fix their credit in 45 days and send them a $2,000 bill.
They're not going to pay.
50% didn't pay me. So I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to fix this problem. So what I ended up doing was I teamed up with mortgage brokers that they had people that got denied a mortgage but really wanted to buy a house. And I said, look, I will fix their credit, and I can fix it in 35 to 45 days, but you have to pay me at closing. And if they don't pay me at closing, I'm going to put everything back.
Mm-hmm. So
my pay rate, the amount of clients that paid me, the percentage went from 50% to about 99%. And on the 1%, it was because they lost their job or whatever. And so I never put it back. So that's in 2012 is when that really took off. And now that's 13 years ago. So the company's been around since 2007. We just hit our 18th year.
Amazing.
Actually, that's not it. We're 17 and a half years old. So yeah, close enough, right? And we've helped hundreds of thousands of people go from 400 to 700, and hundreds of thousands of people get houses and cars and start businesses and then establishing their business credit so they can, like what you were saying, Mark, one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs, I think one of the biggest mistakes they make is using personal credit cards to fund their business. And not so much in the beginning, but after they're successful, after they have a profitable business. I had lunch with a guy today, very, very profitable, millions of dollars a year in revenue. And he paid for lunch today with a debit card. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just paying for lunch. I'm like, is that a business debit card? He goes, no, it's my personal account. I'm like, one, our lunch is tax deductible. And two, you should never use a business or a debit card. And three, why aren't you paying with a business credit card?
Yeah, you shouldn't use a debit card as a rule.
As a rule. That is a hard set rule. Yeah. No debit cards. And so I had a little credit education with him. But I think that's a big mistake I see entrepreneurs making is they use personal credit cards once they're established. In the beginning, you don't have business. You don't have any profit yet. You can't build business credit yet. But after about 6 months, the nice thing with business credit is you can have the equivalent of an 800 FICO score for your business in 3 to 6 months versus 10 years to personal to have the same score. So after 6 months of being in business, you should never use personal credit ever again because of what happens when you use a personal card. Yeah, the IRS doesn't care whose name's on it as long as you're not commingling, as you teach, Mark. They don't care whose name's on it. They care what it's for, what are you purchasing, and who's paying for it. And so I think business owners, one of the mistakes is they don't establish business credit and they use personal credit to pay for things. And the problem is with personal credit, anytime you go over 5% of that utilization rate, your score goes down. And for every 5 points that you use it, you lose. For every 5% you use your card, you lose 5 points. Wow. So if you maxed out a $500 credit card, a $5,000 credit card, a $50,000, $500,000, FICO doesn't care what the credit limit is. They care about the utilization rate. If you max out that credit card just so you can pay for Facebook ads or whatever, you'll see 165 to 200 point reduction in your personal score.
Wow.
And now you're stuck in the low 600s all the time. And now it's really hard to get business lines of credit and loans. So that's how I got into credit. That was a long answer.